day and night. Day here, it means the time when we can see the sun in the sky. So day has two meaning. First, day, a period of time, or day describes the period when we can see the sun in the sky. The earth takes 24 hours to make one complete turn on its axis. So the Earth's day is 24 hours long. Different planets takes different amount of time to make one complete turn, so they have different length of day. Let's talk about our planet, the Earth. This is Earth make one complete orbit around one complete spin or one complete rotation around itself. This takes 24 hours or 1 day. So this part that face the sun has a daytime, or they can see the sun, and this part which is faces away from the sun, they have night. The sun lights up one half of the earth and the other half in shadow. As the earth spins, we move from the shadow to the light and back to the shadow again, and so on. It's a daytime, for example, in UK, in United Kingdom, when our part in the planet in is in the lit by the sun, and it's a night time in the UK when our part, for example, part of the planet is facing away from the sun. Let's go to the simulation to see it. Of course, this is the Earth, our planet, and this is the orbit of the Earth. The Earth, of course, takes 1 year to complete this orbit, and also spins around itself in 24 hours or 1 day. Let's start. This part, which represents the west side of the Earth, has day, okay, or they can see the sun in the sky, while the other part, which is the eastern side, in the shadow, they don't face the sun, or they face away from the sun, so they have night. Let's start. When the Earth rotates around itself, it also orbits the sun or revolves around the sun. The part of the Earth that faces the sun, okay, has a day, and the other part has a night. Okay, so when the Earth spins, the part in the night goes to the light, and they have day, and the other part that was in the day goes to the night, and so on. This orbit takes this. I'm sorry. This spin of the Earth around its axis. This is the axis of the Earth. Of course, it's imaginary line between the North Pole and the South Pole. It's imaginary line, not a real line. Okay, to show how the Earth spins around itself. Okay, help us to know how the Earth spins around itself. Okay, um, just for a moment and stop. For example, this part contains Asia and Saudi Arabia, and this part contains Australia. Okay, now this part in the day and this part in the night. When the Earth spins, this part, this part now, Australia in the day and the other part in the night, and so on. Let's talk about the other part. Of course, Earth spins around itself 365 and a quarter times while it revolves around the sun. This is the moon. While the Earth spins around itself, it also orbits the sun, and also the moon orbits the Earth in this way. The moon takes 28 days to complete one orbit around the Earth. Let's see the real movement. The Earth spins around itself while it orbits or revolves around the sun, and in the same time, the moon revolves around the Earth. Okay, you can count the number of days. Okay, you will find them 365 and a quarter days. That means the Earth spins around itself 365 and a quarter times while it completes one orbit around the sun. In the same way, the moon takes 28 days to complete one orbit around the Earth. Let's go and discuss another part. The apparent movement of the sun in the sky. Why the sun appears or seems to be moving across the sky. Of course, the sun doesn't doesn't orbit the Earth or doesn't revolve around the Earth, but we see the sun likes to move across the sky. This is because the Earth spins around its axis, so we imagine the sun moves in the sky from the east to the west, from sunrise from east and sunset from the west. During the day, the sun appears to move through the sky. Remember that this happens because the Earth is spinning on its axis. Okay, the sun does not move around the Earth or does not um, revolve around the Earth, but the Earth spins around itself. So we imagine that the sun moves or appears to move in the sky. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Sunrise, the appearance of the sun from the east, and the disappearance of the sun from the west. And this is the noon. The noon, sun in the middle of the sky. Okay, about 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. or even 11 a.m. So why the sun appears to move from east to west? That is because the earth is spinning toward the east. So we see the sun first appears there at the start of the day. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. One way to remember which way the earth turns is to remember we spin, which means the earth spins from the west to the east. So the earth spins from the west to the east. So we imagine the sun moves from the east to the west. Let's discuss this part in the simulation program. In this part here, this red dot, which is England. Now England in the day and in the night time, so Earth spins from the west to east. The people here, the observers here in the on the surface of the Earth, they imagine the sun moves across the sky, but the real movement, the Earth spins from the west to the east, and the apparent movement in the sun from the east to the west. It's not a real movement. The Earth doesn't move. Just the Earth only spins or moves around itself from the west to the east, and we imagine like the sun moves from the east to the west. Okay. If you notice here, the shadow when the sun raises up is longest during the sunrise, and when the sun sets down, also the length of the shadow is longest. So the shadow is longest in the sunrise and in the sunset. But at the midday or at the noon, the shadow is so shorter because the sun in the highest point in the sky above the tree, so the shadow is so shorter. You can make it in your home by using a mobile and a stick as a shadow. Use the flashlight of the mobile as the sun, and make it to move uh, by this way. Okay, you will find that when the flash of the mobile here, the shadow will be longest. Move the flash of the mobile here. Okay, you will notice that the shadow becomes shorter, and put the mobile here. You will notice that the shadow becomes shortest, and then complete the movement. The shadow becomes longer again until become longest in the west when the sun sets down. Let's notice again, shortest, then it becomes longer, then it becomes longest, and we entered to the night time. Again, the apparent movement, sun from here and sets from the west. Of course, it's imaginary appearance, it's not the real movement. We imagine that the sun moves from the east to the west because the earth spins around its axis from the west to east, but the observers in the earth, they imagine that, or they see that.